I'm picking up on a project I was working on last week, and it's not quite where I want it to be. I was starting out with this, and it was going to originally be a pumpkin. I was going to make a pumpkin. And then my daughter came along, Blakely, and she says, that doesn't look very pumpkin-like. Well, actually, it was the comments. That was where we started. Let's start at the beginning. Someone in the comments said, oh, I thought you were making broccoli. And I said, okay, cool, let's make it broccoli. And I started making this, was just a basic head of broccoli. And then I actually showed it to my daughter, Blakely, over the course of the week. I was doing a little bit of work on it. And she says, that doesn't look like broccoli. The heads are the wrong color. So she went and got another piece of plushy broccoli. And she showed me that. And I was like, well, you know, I guess you're right. It doesn't really look much like broccoli. And so then I started to change the design a little bit. And here I am now in the middle of a design change, trying to make this look more like a head of broccoli. Not quite there yet, but I think we're getting there. What I did was I started adding a bit more color. She asked for some different color wool. So I started adding in some different color here. And then to make the floret heads a little more separate. And that's something I'm working on right now. I'm going to add a bit more to this one to kind of elongate it out a little bit, to give it more of like a broccoli head type look to it. So that's where we're going to start out. But first, I bought some more needles for needle felting. And I want to set one of them up. This is a spiral needle. Again, those needles are very sharp, small and sharp. And so what I've been doing is I've been just kind of because I'm just starting doing this again. This is an M on that. This is a medium needle. This is a small needle. And I'm missing one, which should be a star needle. I'll set that up. And I have a star needle and I have a spiral needle. This is a spiral needle. What are the differences in the needles? The different needles, they have a slightly different appearance when you are felting. They kind of all do something a little bit different. So in this case, this spiral needle is really good for finishing work. When you're doing that last little bit of work and you want to make that surface to be really, really smooth and tight, you would use, say, this spiral needle. Hey, Megan, how are you doing? I'm showing some needle felting work that I'm doing. This is a project I've been working on, I guess, since I started last week, and I want to work on it some more here tonight. But before I can start actually crafting this, I need to do a bit more work on getting my gear together. And this is going to be SPI. It's my spiral needle here. And then this one, I'm going to set up to be my star needle. And the different shaped needles, again, they function slightly different and I have a different appearance as you're working with them. So this is a small needle. And the difference is subtle to someone who's not actually, Angel, how you doing? If you're not actually crafting, but you'll see in a few moments when I start working with them, what some of those differences will potentially look like. So I have an entire bag of just needles to kind of get me what I want. So make sure I have that right look. India won the Asia Cup. That's cool. What sport is that? And I'm sorry if I'm uninformed. I keep up with predominantly American football. I don't keep like Pop Smoke. I like Pop Smoke. It's cool, dude. And let's set this one as star. S-T-A-R. This is my star needle. Okay, now the needles are set. I can actually start to craft a little bit now, but I want to work on this head and make it a little larger. Just start. I'm gonna roll this up. Back this up a little bit. So what I'm doing will be a little bit not covered by the words. Start out just wool. That's all it is. Loose wool. And just gonna roll this together, and you immediately start to use these needles and it'll start to compress the wool. You're making different shapes. This is just going to be a branch on the floret for the broccoli. That's all I'm making right now. This hobby is called needle felting. And I used to do it quite a bit. It's a COVID hobby. I picked it up in around 2020. I first started doing it then. And as time has gone on, I kind of started doing something else, which is more with polymer clay. And I wasn't doing as much needle felting, but I was like, you know what? This is a really cool old school craft. I want to get back into it. And so I started working with needle felting again. It's just something that kind of helps me relax. All right, so a moment ago, that was wool. You can see it's still wool. It didn't change from being wool, but a moment ago, it didn't have a shape to it. Now you can see it's starting to have a shape as I use the needle, using a medium needle to just kind of give it a bit more form. And what I want to do is attach it to here, maybe like this, compress it down to about right there. That's what I'm kind of thinking. Give it more of a, like this a little bit. Make the heads of the broccoli stand out a little farther. So I hope everyone had a good week. We did. Blair and I, we left the kids, we left them with a sitter, and Blair and I went to London. And had a good time down there with some friends who were visiting over from the US. I filmed that, and that will be coming out on the channel at some point in the future. Who knows when we'll get it out. But there's so many other things that I'm working on right now. I'm working on the next video out on the channel. On the main channel is going to be do's and don'ts of visiting York. I've already filmed the video. I'm just editing right now. And in between editing, I say, okay, while I'm waiting on the edit, I'm waiting on a project to render. It takes a lot of work to make a YouTube video. You have to shoot the video, come up with the idea. First thing you have to come up with the idea. And so I came up with the idea of what I wanted to do. I was passing through York, and I went to York. It's a beautiful city, by the way. I really enjoy York. I think it's really cool. It's not the largest city in Northern England, but it's one of the most renowned cities. It has a beautiful city walls, medieval architecture. And so I went to York, and the video is the 10 do's and don'ts of visiting York. And I don't know if it's actually 10. It's actually probably more than 10. But I've been to the city a lot of times. I go there for the last 3 years. I think I'm going almost every year for the last 3 years to go to the York Christmas market, which will be starting up here in probably about a month or a little less. I'm excited to go to the York Christmas market this year. I've gone in previous years. And so I did this video, and it has to be edited, rendered, and that's what I was working on. And right now it is rendering, which means the computer is taking the files and clips and all the videos, and it's rendering them, it's pulling them together to make one finished video out of it. While the computer is doing that, I can't do anything but sit back and wait. And I said, okay, while I'm waiting, we work on this. So now you can see I added that, which was a bit of wool, and it just kind of jutted this broccoli out a little bit more on this side. Oh, best parts of England. Well, the most scenic would definitely be the north. The most comfortable for me is where I live, the middle. But the south is really great too because you have the coastline and you have all of those beautiful cities down there like Bournemouth, cities and towns along the water. Of course, that's all over England on all sides. Probably haven't spent enough, but if you go down to the South Cornwall, get down that far, and you're really into some nice stuff down there. It's hard to say. Depends on what you're trying to do. I think they each shine. Those different areas in England shine at different times a year. Like in the middle of the summer, then down on the water, south is really great. In the middle of the winter, here is cool because the winters are not as bad as in some other places in England here. So I'm going to make one of these little balls to little flower florets. So it's really hard to say which part is the best. Around again, in the summer, England is really beautiful. Most of all England is really beautiful in the summer. Now, there's a part that I haven't spent as much time in, and that is going to be the Lake District. I haven't spent as much time in the Lake District. The Lake District is I'm almost certain that next summer we're going to spend some time in the Lake District. Can't do a lot of traveling right now. Kids are deep into the school season, so there's a lot going on with school. So we don't have the time to travel. Right? This is the heart of our school year with the kids, and so there's a lot of school activities going on. So we're not doing this travel. But yeah, England has some nice spots. Norfolk is nice. I feel like it's one of those little areas that I always talk about when I say one of those hidden areas. Not as many people go there. They don't travel there as much. But when you get over there, you're like, oh, this is really nice. Norfolk is nice. Spend a bit of time over there. So, and so I'm just going to keep adding these to create. And all I'm making is, so you say, well, what are you doing? Again, it started out was going to be a pumpkin, and now it's just going to be just a piece of broccoli, which is, we're getting there. We're getting there. It's going to take a little bit of work to still make it look more like broccoli. What am I going to do with it when it's done? Well, I'm just going to hand it over to the 2-year-olds and they can play with it. Just let the littles play with it. Lake District. I've seen pictures and videos of the Lake District. I just haven't been there. It's like, and I say to myself all the time, there's something going on in the Lake District. I'm just not clear up. Let me see. Oh, close up. So this is the stem, and this is supposed to be the broccoli head here. And I've started adding in different colors to kind of make the broccoli head more broccoli head-ish. And the project is getting bigger. It's getting larger now. But we're just going to keep going because why not? This isn't anything that I've planned to do anything with. It's just, let's call this a test piece, since this is one of the first pieces that I've done in a while. And what I want to do, I saw someone, if you want to know what needle felting is all about, go on Instagram and put in needle felting. This needle felting, Felting, and you will see some phenomenal work. As I get my skills back together again, as I kind of get more comfortable, then I will take on a different project. Right now, my skills are the most competent, I think, with polymer clay, because that's what I've been working on the most. and I'm going back and re-grabbing this. I'm going to have to kind of take a bit of time, and I will get better at it as I keep going. Broccoli is good for you. I don't think we're gonna have it with dinner, but broccoli is definitely good for you. My kids are really cool because they'll eat broccoli. We've been feeding it to them since day one, and they will eat it with just a little bit of salt on it. You don't have to drench it in cheese or anything like that. They'll eat it because we've been feeding it to them like that since they were little. A lot of people say, we can't get my kids to eat this, that, and the other. We're like, well, our kids, luckily for us, they'll eat broccoli. We eat broccoli. A little bit of salt, a little bit of seasoning, nothing special, no cheese. A lot of people put a lot of cheese on it. If you eat it that way, cool. I mean, I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying for us, we don't. And then for our kids, we don't have to drench it in cheese to get them to eat it. They'll just eat it as it is. We steam it, grill it, prepare it in a lot of different ways. And they have no problem with that. I have a trip coming up back to the States pretty soon. I'm excited. I had a nephew. He was born literally 2 days ago, maybe 3 days ago. So I'm excited. I'm going to get back to the States. I'm going to go see him. This trip is not going to be the whole family. I have a brother who's getting married. My oldest brother's getting married. I'm excited about that. I know he's excited. I'm excited about him getting married. So I'm going to have to go back to the States to take care of some family business. Go see my nieces and nephews. Go see all of them that will be there. Hopefully all of them will be able to make it to the wedding, but definitely want to see the new one, the little newest guy. He will be still really young. So, you know, as kids, they get a little older, around 1 year old. They don't want you to touch him if they don't know you, but he's going to be so new. I'll still be able to go back and him. There's going to be a wedding. So go to the wedding. All those things should be a lot of fun. Looking forward to that in about a month. Looking forward to that a lot. So just starting to add in these So listen, I didn't necessarily give her the cookie. I didn't give her the cookie. She took the cookie off the table and I saw she had it and she did ask me if she could keep it. And so I broke off a little piece of the cookie and I thought I was going to catch her up and I didn't. She got me. So when I asked her who gave you the cookie, before she's always implicated her mother. And sometimes it's because her mother had given it to her. And sometimes the mother was just catching strays. But this time she implicated me. So we cut that video short. But it was funny. I didn't mind throwing it up. It wasn't really for breakfast though. I think it was closer to midday when she had that cookie. I think she'd already eaten some oranges and things of that sort. But yeah, she implicated me. And so you just kind of start out with wool, make it into a ball. And right now I'm just going to cover this side. I'm working on this side right now. Just kind of keep working these in. She did say I gave it to her. I was like, hey. You're right. So I cut that clip short. But I thought it was funny, so I still put it up. It didn't matter. Didn't matter to me. She got me. I was like, look at you. I just love the fact that she's talking. She's very vocal. She talks a lot. She says 100 words for one word said by her brother. He's stoic. It doesn't say as much. That's fine. I love the fact that they have different personalities. And actually, I have cousins who are identical twins, and I struggle with being able to tell them apart. And they're grown. I mean, grown grown ladies with professional careers. To me, they still look a lot alike. And I was really glad to not have identical twins. Even with us having boy-girl twins, when they were younger, we still struggled with telling them apart. Because I would always go and pick up a baby and I thought I was picking up one, and then later on I realized I had picked up the other baby. So that's funny. There's caregivers are British for the most part, and the most vocal caregivers that they have in the rooms with them are British. So they have a little bit of a British accent. It's hard for me to say because I don't feel as though the accent in this area where I live is very strong. In my mind, it's not a very hard accent. Like it's not like the London Cockney accent or or like a Northern England accent or a Scottish accent. So, but I've been told that Matthew, who started school, his first introduction to starting school was in a British school. I have been told by people who's watched some of our videos and others, and they say he has a British accent. And I was like, well, maybe. I've also commented before that I think our kids, they do a bit of code switching, which means when they're talking to Blair and I, they speak with a more American accent. And then I think when they're talking to their classmates and other people, they use probably a more British sounding accent. I think it has to do a lot with who they're talking to. It happens a lot in the United States as well. You have Hispanics or Latin and other cultures in the US, and the kids are in the US schools. And so when they're at school, they have a very clean American accent. And then when they talk to their parents, they use a different accent. I think our kids are doing something similar to that personally. So it's slow work. It really is. The whole last time I was on a live, I just did this head. I was working on this. And then this one I kind of did during the week. And right now, this is where I am. Just going to add these in. It's slow work. This project is is really good for practice, though. This is good for practice because it allows me to just kind of work on my skills a little bit more, refine, think about the different techniques of how I want to make this particular little head of broccoli. And it is cool to do something that has no actual use to it, in the sense of I'm not doing this because I have to do it for work or something along that line. It has some other goal. The only goal is to just finish it. I think it's cool to do things sometimes and you don't have to have a hard requirement for why you're doing it. That's why hobbies are really cool. Hobbies are good like that. It just allows you to do something. And if you get it wrong, if you don't get it right, no harm, no foul. No one's going to be hurt in this world if this broccoli doesn't come out looking very much like a head of broccoli and ends up looking like something else. No one's gonna, suffer from that. I'm not gonna suffer from that, surely. Darren, how you doing? Thanks for joining the live. However long you're here, you are surely welcome. Glad to have you. I wanted to jump on live Friday, but kids had sports, didn't get a chance to do it. Saturday, busy, running around, a lot of movement. And I said, okay, I'm trying to do this at least one out of the 3 days over the weekend. Every weekend, I want to be able to have a little bit of time to get on live and craft and chat. That's the series, is what we're calling it, craft and chat. I'm crafting and just talking with whoever jumps on the live. We'll have some discussions, talk about whatever comes up. A lot about the UK, different places. For every place that I've been, I recognize there are so many more that I've not gone to. I still want to go to Blackpool. I know people have said, dude, it's not worth it. It's not worth it to go to Blackpool. And I want to go to Blackpool. There's a tower there that I want to see. So I want to go to Blackpool. It's one of the places I want to visit. Liverpool is still one of the coolest cities that I think just doesn't get enough notice. A London is great. I spent a lot of time in London. London is great, but there's so many cool and wonderful cities scattered around England, Scotland, Wales. There's so many wonderful places that you can visit. I would like to see, if you saw me jump, the needle actually went all the way through and touched my finger. It didn't hurt me, but it touched my finger. And these needles are so sharp. This hobby is not a hobby for, I've seen a recommendation say 12 and up, and I would stick with that. I would say at least 12 and up. 12 and up if the child is artistically inclined, really good with their fingers, hands working, and they're used to those type of things. But this hobby can hurt you because those needles are so sharp. And if you start jabbing really aggressively, you're gonna hit yourself. It's gonna hurt. And that's not good. So this is not a hobby for the youth. They can appreciate the end product, but I would start it absolutely at teenage and up. So my daughter, I've been trying to get her into, my teenager, we've been getting her into crocheting. There's these really cool little crochet kits. So she crocheted a little dinosaur recently. She still loves to draw more than anything else, but she's really great. So I would do needle felting with her. She's done a couple projects. She made a Pikachu once. Didn't finish it, but she did the whole first half of a Pikachu. But my younger sons have asked about doing this hobby, and I said, we'll do something else. Simply because, as I mentioned, I just don't want to deal with them potentially poking themselves with one of these needles. Does not feel good. And then after you poke yourself with the needle 2 or 3 times, because that could happen, if you're a kid, then you like, oh, I don't like this hobby. It hurts me, right? So then they get they never want to do it again because they relate the hobby with pain because it hurts. So you don't want that. So I would suggest holding off. And even if you're going to do this yourself, I suggest that you start out doing a bigger project, something bigger like this, because the smaller work means your hands are closer to the needles as you're working. So it can be a little dangerous. But if you're going to learn how to do needle felting, you want to know how to do it. It's not very complicated. It's a little bit to it. There are a lot of tutorials, not a lot. There are tutorials on YouTube to show you how to go through this hobby and how to do it. So there are tutorials to help you there. I would definitely say take your time, start out slow. Newcastle. Okay. Haven't been to Newcastle. That sounds cool. Sunderland. Haven't been there either. That's what I'm saying. There's so many places that I still haven't visited yet that I need to try to make it to. That's what I really enjoy about. I didn't realize it. So when I moved over to the UK, my intention was to use the UK and we would do a lot of travel across Europe. And to be honest with you, we've done a little bit of travel into Europe, but nothing the way I consider it. Really, because we have kids and it's a bit hard to get everyone loaded up, jumping on planes all the time. We do travel a bit, but it's kind of hard. So it's a lot easier for us to jump in the car, find a really cool place in England. And so I've done a lot of English discovery simply because it's local and we could just quickly jump in the vehicle, get an Airbnb, go somewhere really nice. Where I'm at. Oh, right here. There's a lot of places we can visit like that. So just working this, still just adding on these pieces around, just make these little balls and then add them on. That's all I'm doing right now. And you can see it's very time consuming to do that. But I think that's the only way to make it look right. If you really want it to look good, you probably could do it where another artist would do it a different way. Someone else would needle felt this entirely differently and would come out looking really good. But to me, in my head, this is the way to do it. There are special gloves. There are leather gloves that you can wear, not on your whole hands, but on I've seen leather gloves that come down to like cover your whole finger, and those do help. And I would suggest that you start with those. I don't use them because the gloves cut down on your dexterity and makes it a little harder to do the movements. But I could definitely see using the leather gloves. Also, I do want to comment on the fact that the needles are so sharp, though, that they will go through. If you're jabbing really, really hard, the needle will still go through a leather glove. I've had that happen before. I have used the leather gloves in plastic, little plastic. There's some metal ones. Those are like, if you think of a thimble, there are some metal ones that you can use, and the needles won't go through that. The thing really to do is to learn how to maneuver the needle to where you're not poking yourself with it. But as you're learning that, as you're developing your skills and your technique, those gloves and those thimbles, they would definitely help save you. What I want to do once I finish this project is we're heading into the holiday season, and I want to make something felt that can go on the Christmas tree. So that may be baubles. Those would just be pretty easy to make. This circle would be easy, but then you'd want to put the leaves on it or something along that line to give it a bit of texture, and then it would be a bit more work. So the initial, if I decided to do that, or do I want to do a felt? When I can really get my skills back up to where I want them to be, I would love to be able to make a little mouse. I think a felt mouse would be cool. Is there a forest near Newcastle? I like to walk through forest. So I'm pretty sure there's a little bit more I could probably find to do there. The name's cool anyways, Newcastle. I started out visiting a lot of castles as well. I hope there are castles somewhere near Newcastle. So if there's an old castle around, we haven't gone to as many castles. We used to go to a lot of castles. And then I will admit, we slowed down on that because the twins couldn't walk. The twins can now walk. And as they get older, we're going to start to do a bit more of those. The castles, they're not really buggy friendly, not stroller friendly. So you end up in a situation to where you're carrying the littles around. Castles have sharp stairs. They're not very level for craftsmanship, and then also for the sake of defense. So carrying around little people. So we just kind of dialed back on the castles. We're going to probably pick that up again. Pretty sure maybe in the next year. What do you give up on? Have you been saying something that I missed? I'm sorry if I'm not. I'm looking up and looking down. So if you left a comment and I didn't see it. Yes, that's it exactly. Broccoli. And I just added this piece to make this kind of jut out a little bit more. My daughter told me that the head was too tight. It needed a bit more to lengthen out. So I added a bit of wool on this side to make it jut out a little bit more. But yes, that's all it's going to be, which is just like the little icon there. It's just going to be a little broccoli head. That's all it is. Nothing too special. Norwich Castle just opened up after being closed for work. So yeah, definitely want to go check that out. I find the castles to be interesting. You're walking through them and you're trying to imagine. I try to imagine what it was like for people who used to live in the castle, around the castle. I think about what it was, historically, what living that type of life would be. Some of it would have been great. Some of it would have not been great, depending on who you are in the castle. But since it's your imagination, you can imagine that you're one of the people who have one of the better lives in the castle. again, I know that castles predominantly were built for defense, so I don't want to over glamorize it, but I think castles are cool. You grew up as a kid, and castles are in all your books and in your play. There are castles. So then, as an adult, for myself to have the opportunity to go to a country that has castles, the U.S. has a few, a very small amount, but most of them were ornamental. And then when they made castles, they were making wooden forts by the time the U.S. started to build a lot of things. So it's not a lot of castles, definitely not historical in the U.S. as you could see. Castles really more of a, here we go. I'm gonna do this one right here. It's a big one right there. Okay. Does anyone know if there is a pumpkin patch anywhere? I went to one last year. I wasn't impressed with it. I would love to find we need to find a pumpkin patch to take the kids to a pumpkin patch. I know you can always buy a pumpkin or two out of the shopping centers, but I would love to be able to go to a pumpkin patch and we go and pick some pumpkins. Anyone know if there are any pumpkin patches nearby for anyone? I grew a few pumpkins this year. They didn't do so great. It was that month while we were back in the States. It was a bit of a heat wave here. It didn't rain very much. So a lot of my outdoor garden plants did not do so well during that period. Not all of them died, but they just didn't get the water that they needed. By the time I got back, they were suffering really bad. So no big pumpkins. Last year, I grew a pumpkin that were pretty big. It was 25 pounds, 23 pounds, 27 pounds. Yeah, they had a pretty large size on them, but this year I would do good if I get 2 or 3 really tiny, like really small pumpkins. That's all that's still the vines. And I actually didn't plant any larger vine pumpkins this year. Normally I try to grow a giant pumpkin. I did not. I did go to see the giant pumpkin competition at the Malvern Autumn Show. And if you actually today was the last day of the show. So if you didn't make it over there, but I did, I will have a video going up on my YouTube channel. It's going to go on the garden channel, Dr. Max Garden Style is where that video is going to be posted, but I will collab it with this channel. So it should show up. If you watch this channel, it should still show up. At least the video that covers the giant pumpkins. But every year, this company called Canna, they host a giant vegetable show. It's not just giant pumpkins, it's giant vegetables. And so the largest pumpkin that was there this year was 1,117 kilograms, which was about a bit over 2,400 pounds. And I did a bit of research. This pumpkin was so close to the world record. The world record is about 2,700 pounds. And this one was about 300 pounds short of the world record. It was an absolutely massive pumpkin. And I was looking at it, I said, how did they manage to move a pumpkin that large? That pumpkin was so big. And there were a lot of other giant vegetables, the giant tomatoes, giant potatoes, giant everything. Cantaloupe, not broccoli heads. There were giant cauliflower, sunflowers. It was a lot of giant peppers. I go to this show. I try to go every year. It's really a wonderful show. If you love something as off the wall as giant pumpkins and giant vegetables, then that's definitely the show to go to. But I go every year to mainly see the giant pumpkins because although that pumpkin was the largest, there were several other pumpkins that were 600-700 kilograms. I mean, kgs. These pumpkins were just massive. And Charlie Brown and the giant pumpkin. Is that what it's called? Charlie Brown and the giant pumpkin? Maybe that's what got me into giant pumpkins. And I've tried to grow them. Last year, I grew a lot of giant leaves, but the pumpkin plant did not come through. Next year, I will try again to grow another giant pumpkin. I don't want to grow a pumpkin that is 1,100 kilograms. Also, that takes a lot of work. I would love to just grow a pumpkin that's maybe 300 or 400 kilograms, or a 400 or 500 pound pumpkin. I think would be really cool to drag it out in front of the house and then set it up as a display here with the kids. Then right before the season's over, carve it out and then let the kids climb all inside of it. I think that'd be something cool to do. But those giant pumpkins are really, really impressive. What is the purpose of life? That is a really good question. Blair and I were pondering that just earlier this week. We were sitting down and we were talking about the fundamentals of life and science and the cosmos and the galaxy and why the galaxy is expanding and the Big Bang. I don't know why we have this conversation, but we were thinking about those very topics just the other day. We had a long conversation about it, and it was such there's so many different things you could think about. There, of course, there's the religious standpoints, there's scientific, and it all comes back to belief and knowledge and science. And it's just really a wonderful exercise. And I say exercise because as you think about it, it's really hard to prove any of it. And it's also hard to disprove any of it. So it's just, we talked about it. And then after we had our conversation, we stopped, we paused, and we said, okay, what's for dinner? Because that's what you have to do with those wonderful conversations. But they are definitely conversations that are worth having. Those are thoughts worth thinking about. And I think every individual person will come up with their own individual answers to what the answers are as to why we are here, as to why we exist. And I think it's just wonderful, though, to have the thought. I think that's really good. Sound like the twins. Well, I know they're almost ready for dinner. Blair's preparing the plates, so I won't be able to do this for much longer. But when the twins get towards eating dinner, normally we're doing it a little earlier than this, but when there's time for food, they start smelling food, they get grumpy. They get really grumpy. It is a lot of dedication to grow those giant vegetables. And I applaud any grower who can take the time to do it. You have to really be committed to those plants. They take a lot of water, the right soil, the right seeds, and then a lot of time and attention to make sure that the bugs don't get into them. I think as episodes of Wallace and Gromit. Does anyone remember? I mean, I don't know. Does Wallace and Gromit still make episodes? But Wallace and Gromit, and I remember the characters on that show would go through all of these steps to protect their garden. And I think that's what it takes if you're going to grow a giant pumpkin or any giant plant. I do miss Wallace and Gromit. I hope I don't know, I haven't seen anything from Wallace and Gromit in a little while. Are they still doing, because the guys are British based, right? The guys that make Wallace and Gromit, the animation studio is here in the UK. I can't remember where it is. But are they still doing Wallace and Gromit? I haven't seen any new episodes in quite a while. The twins, they don't know anything about Wallace and Gromit. Our older kids used to look at it a lot. Shaun the Sheep, that's what they watched. They watched Shaun the Sheep. A lot of Shaun the Sheep. Wallace and Gromit and Shaun the Sheep. But they watched a lot more Shaun the Sheep than Wallace and Gromit. All right, thank you for the recommendation. I'm gonna have to see. I don't know if YouTube keeps the chat, the live chat. I'm just gonna release this video back onto the channel. And so if anyone wants to look at this a little later, they can always go back and look at it. I was sending it just straight to members, but I think I'm gonna send some other videos for members only, for the people who have subscribed to the channel as members. And I'm gonna work on doing a bit more for members. But these videos, these chats, I just released them. But I hope that the chat function of what everyone is saying in the chats, because I can go back there. If YouTube keeps it, I can even go back myself and read it. Because really, this is a craft that you have to keep your eyes on the needle. So I'm missing some of the communication, some of the comments. I can't look up and read and do this at the same time. That would be bad for the fingers. So you can see in the last 40 minutes, there were no heads on this side. And I added a bit of wool to make it larger. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around here and I'm going to shrink this down because right now it's not definitive enough. And I'm going to use this, which there's like 9 needles in here. You can see the end of it. And I'm just going to compress this down to make it look a bit more like a stalk. Get real stalky with this. And that's a little slower than I like. So I'm gonna make this a bit more of a stalk. Right now it's too thick around the base. So I'm just gonna go all the way around it and create more of a stalk shape. And I'll do that by compressing the wool in between that section and the last section. I saw what I would call the ultimate project recently. Someone had made out of not out of wool, they made a house out of wool. Now, I want to show you right before I jump off this live, the other project I've been working on. Hold on. So I talked about this on a live a little while ago, about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I talked about making a different style of pumpkin house. And this is made out of polymer clay. I haven't glazed it yet. But this case, I actually made the house an actual pumpkin. On the other ones, I guess I should take another one down so you can see what the other ones look like. All right, here is an example of the first style of pumpkin houses that I was making. And this one is glazed. That's why it's shiny. It's a UV resin that I use. This UV resin that I use to glaze it. And this one is glazed. And I said, okay, this is the pumpkin house. And it's like this, look, just so you can see what it looks like there. And I can't tell you what it says because the little creatures or people that live in here, they don't speak English. But all the way around, just so you can see what that looks like. That's what that looks like. And then I said, okay, well, what if I make a one that is actually a pumpkin instead of just the top of it being kind of like a pumpkin? I made this one, which I finished just last week. And again, same language. And I've added in some apples here. You can see it's like in the middle of a pumpkin patch. And I decided to put some yellow on the pumpkin in this case too. Not perfect. This is my first time ever doing this design. Every time I switch designs, the first one looks a little rough, then the ones afterward look a little better. And it's always about just increasing your skills. So this is what I've been working on for the polymer clay. And this is the projects that I've been working on a lot more than the needle felting. So I have a lot of these that I've made now. And I don't know, I'm just sticking them up on the shelf. I have nothing to do with them. I'm just making them and sitting them on the shelf. But this one I really like. And so I have two primary crafts from the crafting standpoint. One is polymer clay and the other is needle felting. Now, what I would like to do is to be able to continue my needle felting and get good enough with the needle felting to where I can make a house out of a needle felt. Because what I've seen recently was someone's made a house, a needle felted house, not this same design as these little pumpkins, but it's a different design. But I just thought that that would be really cool. And so I'm going to work on that. The kids are all down. The twins, you may hear them in the background. They're a little grumpy. They're ready to eat dinner. The plates are prepared. I'm holding up the dinner table. This is the kitchen dinner table. So I'm going to have to relinquish this space. I want to continue to work on this. I'm going to tighten this down, create this head out to the side a little bit more. If you saw already, I've been going around it to give it a bit more depth, to make it look a little more stalky. And I'm going to just kind of shrink this down, compress that. I need to figure out what to do with this little piece, which I may jut it out to the side this way and add another head on there. But I'm getting close to being finished with this. When I'm done with it, hand it over to the twins. Hey, I've enjoyed this chat. I'm going to cut a little short because the kids need to eat. It's getting a little late on a Sunday afternoon. I would try to be back again between Friday, Saturday, or Sunday of next week. I like to do Friday, but it's really hard to get in on Friday. So it may be, again, another Sunday chat. But I appreciate everyone who's jumping in with me on these live chats, and they're a lot of fun. They'll predominantly be on one of those 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I can't tell you exactly when. It's when I can get a bit of free time from the family. And I see you all have had a wonderful conversation. I want to go back and read some of that and catch up with everything you were talking about. Great to create this space for people to be able to talk and communicate, and I've enjoyed it. Everyone have a good week. Sundays are start of the week, so have a good week, and hopefully I will see you again at the end of the week. Take care.